In today's video, we are reacting to Cadillac's F1 car. We saw Red Bull's, now it's Cadillac. We're going to give our thoughts, our opinions, and everything. Go check out the race, link in the description below. Thank you, the race, for letting me react to your videos. I thought I subscribed to y'all, but apparently I didn't. But let's see.
Bigger clues have been dropped for F1 2026, including a key Ferrari design detail with the reveals of the first...
They are using Cadillac's F1 engine.
Real car.
Not Ferraris.
Cars from American rivals Cadillac and Haas. Haas became the first team to show off its
Oh, and Haas. Okay. Okay.
26 car.
Haas is very clean. Very, very clean. Cause they always have the red, the white, and the black spec. And this is pretty clean.
Formerly with digital images of its actual VF26. But
Okay.
Cadillac had already hit the track with its first ever F1 car and put out images from the Silverstone shakedown that were at least clear enough to get an idea of what the unnamed machine looks like. Thanks to both teams, we have some more tangible details to get excited about, including a major Ferrari technical choice. The images revealed by Haas show a car with pushrod front and rear suspension.
Okay.
Haas uses the Ferrari gearbox and carrier and purchases its rear suspension too. So that means we know what Ferrari's car will have in this area as well, and it's confirmation that Ferrari returns to a pushrod rear suspension for the first time since 2011. The push or pull rod is the suspension member connecting the wheel assembly to the inboard suspension system.
Yeah.
With the push rod, the inboard rocker assembly is mounted high on the chassis and the outboard end low on the wheel assembly. With the pull rod, it's the other way round. Chassis low, wheel assembly high. Ferrari had pull rod suspension
I learned
front
that from
and rear
last
last
video.
year, having made a change to the front of the car for 2025. But it stuck to its guns with its rear configuration and seemed to still have fundamental issues with it compared to its rivals. Now Ferrari's changed direction, and the initial 2026 trend is clearly pushrod at the front, when under the previous rules it was pull rod at the front and pushrod at the rear.
Cool.
Grainy images from Audi's shakedown and the way the two Red Bull teams adjusted F1's initial model of the 2026 regs to create new interpretations that weren't the real 2026 cars suggest those teams might have pushrod on the front and rear too. The early outlier is Cadillac, which has opted for a pull rod front suspension. Cadillac uses Ferrari
Do we know their
internals, but manufactures
what's it called?
its own
What do they look
casing,
like?
so
Or
it doesn't
no?
need the
Oh
same
no!
geometry.
Well, they were revealing it for the Super Bowl. I forgot.
But it is in line with its supplier and fellow customer Haas in going down the pushrod route at the rear. So what do these choices mean? There are aerodynamic and packaging trade-offs, but it's too early to judge what the impact will be, and we're fascinated to hear teams explain them properly. At the front of the car though, the pushrod setup brings a slightly higher centre of gravity and potentially a bit more drag, which isn't good in these cars as straight line efficiency is going to be critical. But it's simpler to adjust as the parts are higher, and the primary driver of this choice is usually what's best aerodynamically. Pushrod was the main choice pre-2022 for that reason, but it changed with the ground effect rules and the importance of feeding complex Venturi tunnels under the floor. So there must be something in the 2026 cars, perhaps feeding back from the narrower front wings, that has driven a switch. It's also potentially slightly lighter, and weight is going to be a critical issue with the 2026 cars due to a 30 kilogram reduction from 2025 on its
They
own.
do such a
saving
cool
probably wouldn't be significant enough to be an adequate
show the
trade-off, but if
CGI.
the aero impact is negligible, weight could edge it.
Like reference of CGI, like how they describe
What we've seen
they
from
show
Cadillac
the
and now
models and
Haas has
stuff.
helped cement some early
That was bad
2026
English.
design trends and where to look for finer details. Both cars have quite large horizontal wing elements on the outer upper edge of the front wing end plates, grander than anything we've seen in mock-ups so far. The new look front wings, which bear more than a passing resemblance to those from the late 2000s, is a new area of development for this year, so there will probably be more interesting interpretations of how best to separate the airflow around the inside and outside of the front tyre. One of the most visually prominent aero features on these cars is at the front of the floor, with a large forward fence and up to 3 elements permitted. While the Cadillac design looked very basic from afar and akin to the original F1 model, Haas's is a simple 3-tier interpretation, more like what the Red Bull teams mocked up. Side pod shapes and a slope down to the rear of the floor are also an early attention-grabbing aspect of these cars. For Cadillac, the radiator inlet is high and more of a horizontal letterbox with vertical opening than we saw from the front-running cars last year, which had an overhung upper surface. This gives it what looks like a huge side pod undercut, and there is a very steep falling away at the rear on the upper surface. The Haas design looks less mature, particularly where the side pod inlet is so big. The side pod widens behind it before tapering back in, while the top surface has a gully in it towards the rear. How teams are packaging their cooling system versus what area opportunities they want to pursue will still be a big element of these designs. And as the back of the side pods interact with the rear of the floor, it's interesting to observe how the different shapes leave the floor more or less exposed. The Haas floor,
I do like Haas. Haas is just clean, like very simple design than Red Bull's,
and is presumably an early iteration part. After all,
I still like Red Bull better,
isn't completely
but
relevant.
Haas very,
As
very
team
clean.
boss
If I had to rate it, solid 8.5.
Said the car that runs at the Barcelona test will not be what races in the Australia season opener, as everything's happening so early this year that designs are even less mature than normal in pre-season.
I like this. I like the design. Like, this is legit clean. You don't need this is just bland. Like, there's with Red Bull, there's a lot going on. This, what's the saying? Less than more. Yeah, less than more, I think. And this, just clean. Like,
things will change.
This is I'll be honest, this is the cleanest I've seen. Cleaner than Red Bull, but Red Bull has a lot going on.
Through testing, then the season itself. So if you want to be the first to know
it's the simplest.
F1's biggest shake-up in decades, make sure you get your paddock pass.
Let me know in the comments below what's your thoughts.
It's the perfect time to check out a 7-day free trial of the Members Club and see the true picture of what's happening in F1. Come behind the scenes with us for exclusive updates, expert analysis, and bonus podcasts just for you. Just head to the Members Club via the link below to claim your 7-day free trial. A new Haas look for 2026 relates to a significant change. Out goes former title partner MoneyGram, and in comes an enhanced Toyota deal.
Oh yeah, the good Toyota Gazoo Racing.
First began in October 2024, Toyota's ultimate intentions have been subject to intense scrutiny. Komatsu admitted at the end of last year, people wanted to think it was going to become the Toyota Works team or lead to a Toyota engine. The team rebranded as TGR Haas, which reflects Toyota's European R&D facility working with Haas more and more, only pours more fuel on the flames. But whatever long-term ambitions Toyota may or may not have are probably not quite as well thought out as a Works team future being inevitable. A handy, if unusual example of that actually came at the start of January, when, just after the Haas renaming took effect and logos were even placed at its Banbury base, Toyota announced a rejig of its branding that basically wipes the Toyota Gazoo Racing moniker out. Toyota and Gazoo Racing have been split to service different areas of the Toyota Motorsport family, so TGR is no longer a thing. The European company has been rebranded from Toyota Gazoo Racing as Toyota Racing, but the F1 team will still be TGR Haas. With respect to its World Endurance and World Rallying campaigns, the Haas affiliation is surely Toyota's biggest motorsport exposure globally. So the fact the F1 entry will not feature Toyota's up-to-date branding is hardly an argument for Toyota having a clear master plan. But slightly confusing naming aside, the partnership's working. Toyota got F1 test opportunities for Ryo Hirakawa, Ritomo Miyata, Sho Tsuboy, and even its 2009 F1 racer turned WEC driver and team boss Kamui Kobayashi across 14 days of private Haas testing in 2025. This will expand further in 2026, and Toyota would ideally like to get a driver in contention for a race seat eventually. Toyota's also giving Haas some manufacturing.
Aren't they going to bring back like Yuki or no?
Capacity, and most importantly to the F1 team itself, a driver in-loop simulator at Haas HQ for the first time. This simulator is being built and having its models integrated using another Toyota simulator in Epsom as a reference. It should be online properly in May or June 2026. Unfortunately, that comes far too late to assist with the design of the 2026 car, but it should be a crucial weapon for Haas in terms of future car development and race preparation work. Over time, the technical alliance should grow deeper, and every indication is the Haas-Toyota bond will grow rather than diminish. Cadillac and Haas are both American teams, and Haas was the last new F1 entry, so is the reference many will use to set expectations for Cadillac. So it's fitting they provided the first real 2026 designs we could begin to compare properly to. In reality though, Cadillac shouldn't be troubling Haas this season and shouldn't be getting anywhere near what Haas did a decade ago in its maiden F1 campaign. F1 is in a very different place, and Cadillac is not doing this the same way Haas did. While both teams have multiple locations to manage and are Ferrari customers, Cadillac's doing a lot more in-house design and production work. You can't purchase as much as when Haas entered F1, and Cadillac doesn't want to be so dependent anyway. That makes it harder for starters, but Cadillac's also had barely a year since getting its entry confirmed to get everything ready, so the lead time has been far from optimal. And on top of that, F1's much more competitive than in 2016. Just look at the teams Haas was able to beat on its debut and across the season. McLaren was in a disastrous Honda alliance at the time, now it's the reigning double world champion. Castrap Sauber has turned into the Audi Works team, Mana didn't exist beyond 2016, and okay, Renault's works team slipped back to having terrible results again in 2025, but it was the best worst team in F1 history. It's a lot harder to come in and do what Haas did. Hence, Cadillac's target has to be running reliably and respectably. It was no surprise to hear whispers that Cadillac was up against it to get on track for its shakedown as planned, or that not much time was then spent on track. But Sergio Perez did log a few laps, and Cadillac's managed to get its car running before many other teams. That's because of good solid planning and execution. This version of the Cadillac was signed off in November, something intended to work predictably and reliably, and then developed more aggressively through the year.
Okay.
Whereas bigger, better, more experienced teams will be pushing development and production limits further for the launch car because they know they can. The shakedown and partial unveiling was a major milestone though. The mountain is not getting any smaller for Cadillac, so even a few steps from base camp is progress.
So, I think Cadillac, I think this year they're not going to, well, I don't want to say they're not going to do well. I feel like they're going to prove us wrong. But I wouldn't be surprised if they struggle a lot this year from what they've had. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and let's subscribe so we can hit 100K subscribers. I appreciate it, and have a blessed day.